Hi, Aja.
Hello.
I found myself in July at a satsang with John Burney saying, I feel like I've pretty much worked through all my life issues. And since then, things have really fallen apart. Among them, my sister, who's a psychiatrist in Boston, had a book published, and when I read the review about our childhood, which was pretty horrific, actually. And when I read the reviews, I grieved for several days, and then I got around to reading the book, which was mostly about her mother's suicide. But both my parents, my mother and father, did a spouse swapping thing before my mother married my stepfather, and he was really brutal. And I don't want to do the whole story because it just doesn't end. In fact, I saw therapists for years, and they ultimately came back to, so what's happening with Carter today? It was just too much for them to, and it's been a lot for me to try to sort through. My question is, I've heard you talk about finding the sweetness in emptiness, finding the love. And I did a retreat with you in Silmar in February, and had an awakening experience there, and I have had an intense clarity since then, and to the extent that I am sensing the personalities and the vegetation, and but I feel like there's something that's interfering with my ability to find the sweetness in the emptiness.
Yeah, okay. So is this sort of metaphorical speaking that I'm going to speak in? But it's also kind of not metaphorical, so a little of both. When we see from here, that's clarity. I don't mean see through your mind. Everybody else is doing that. But, when you really see absolute clarity, emptiness, right? What is it when you see from here? See, I can see you from here. You can actually, once you get used to it, you can navigate all these areas. I can go to here. It's just clarity, clear, right? Pure awareness. There's a certain presence to it, but it's basically sort of empty emptiness. Bright, clear, awake, nothing. Follow me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if I see you from here, it's bright and clear, but there's an added element. It's when we perceive through the heart. And of course, to perceive through the heart must not be defended. Yeah?
That's my issue, I think. I don't have access to that.
Is it true?
Much of the time.
What gets in your way?
Well, I heard you, and I've heard you speak many times, mostly on CD, but I heard you talking about what is unenlightening me yesterday. The story that I hear in my mind is that I never learned it. It wasn't, my childhood was more like a cult or a prison.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't available.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about a different kind of love here. There is the kind of love that we learn often, a relational kind of love. We either have it modeled for us well or not modeled. And that can be a relationship with somebody else, relationship with our own self, our idea of ourself anyway. But the thing I'm talking about isn't something you learn. What you learn is to not pay attention to it. You can't learn how to pay attention, but you can certainly learn how not to pay attention. And you can learn all the supposed reasons why you shouldn't love. A lifetime of reasons why I shouldn't really love what is. That's what we learn. There's no such thing as learning how to love. We can't learn what we are. We can only unlearn it.
I think I've experienced that, and in fact, I think I was there before I read this book, and I, despite I had this gratitude initially, but the way that she explained, I mean,
gratitude is part of it too.
When I got to the end of the book, though, she had essentially whitewashed my stepfather's brutality, and it wasn't part of the story, and it
wasn't that perfect for her to do that.
It was a smack in the head for me.
Huh?
It was a smack in the head for me.
Well, it must have been your fist then. I understand what you're saying, by the way. I understand how it could be perceived that way, of course. That's very understandable. I understand how it could be seen, if she didn't acknowledge what I would want her to acknowledge. I can understand that. But if we live in our story of how is it anybody else's job in this life to perceive things the way that we do than us? No. Anybody else's job? No. Even the people that are really close to us, is it their job to see things like we do?
No.
You see what I mean? Whether they're our lovers or our sisters or our brothers or our parents and this is something we put on people all around us without knowing it, right? It's like, it's your job to perceive things the way I do. And then when they don't, it really hurts. But everybody's job is to perceive things exactly the way that they perceive them. And so everybody, in a certain sense, is right on the mark all the time. Oh, her job is to perceive things that way, and she's doing a wonderful job at it. Right? Her job is to perceive this in a way and whitewash this. That's her perception, and she's doing it. And her job in life isn't to perceive things like you do. You feel what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Not just, I know you can understand it, of course, but really start to feel it. Because see, this freedom, this well-being that you have touched upon, you have discovered at times, right? This well-being. This is something that you and I and all of us, in order for you to experience it fully, we have to give it away. In other words, freedom is what we have to give to everybody else around us. In other words, what I mean by that is everybody gets to be the way they are. They're all free. You free the universe of you. I free the universe of me. The universe, everybody in it, no matter how close they are to me, I have freed the whole universe. It's allowed to be as it is. I've given it its freedom. Now, if I experience freedom and I don't give it away, then my freedom, my personal freedom, can be taken away very easily. As soon as somebody else doesn't do what we think they should do. But if you realize freedom is something that's not just for us, but it's very important for us to give it away. So that you get to be free to see things you do, and you get to be free to see and you do, and you get to be free to totally disagree, and you get free to not understand me, and you get free to hate me, and you get free to love me, and you get free to be my friend, and you get free to not be. You see what I mean?
Just whatever comes up.
Yes. So that's a real necessity that's really easy to miss, by the way. It's really easy to miss when you feel that well-being and freedom and gratitude of really discovering a truth about you, a deep contact with reality. It's very, and the joy of that, and the freedom of that. But it's not always intuitive, not always real obvious, that it's imperative that we give it away. That we say, okay, the world is not responsible for living out my agenda. That's my job. And everybody gets to do what they're doing. That frees them from you and me, and that frees you from them. The freeway has to be the freeway.